Now, if I hover over the other dates here, I see that my neighborhood occupancy is actually showing 34%. So on the 12th, it was 25%. On the 13th, it's 34%. On the 14th, it's 55%. So you see, depending on, and it's 67%. So these dates, these set of dates are already showing that more than half of your listings are already booked, and it's almost 3 months out. So we know that something big is coming here. Some big event is coming up that we need to raise prices for, which is why the prices here are more than double the prices here. See here, just 15%, 14%, 15%, versus here it's showing 67%. So this is the kind of data that goes in the backend to say which dates are seeing a lot of bookings and how can we increase prices for that. So we have seen historic data to say if it's 3 months out and it's already showing 67%, how was the eventual demand looking like? So we are sure that if it's 67% now, everything is going to get booked by the time it's July, and you can charge a premium and get a booking at that price. Now, you might say that, I actually know which event is coming up, and I know that I can get these 2 dates booked at 500. And you can add a customization to say, okay, 500 is what, once you have given this listing, we'll not use our price, but we'll use your price from this point on. Now, what you'll be seeing, you also see something called min stay default. So I want to show you how you can set it up. And to set that up, you can use this customization box, and it lists what kind of currently in place. I click edit here. So there is a last price customization. We already do last depending on the data we see in your market, but you're always welcome to set these up by yourself depending on what you want to say. So you might want to say that I want a flat 40% discount within the last 10 days. And from that point on, instead of using our discounting, last minute discounting, we'll use your last minute discounting rule. Similarly, for orphan days are days that are unbooked between 2 bookings. You can say, I want a 20% discount for gaps that are less than 2 days, for example. I'm going to turn these off, back off. Now, for minimum stay, when you turn on the switch for minimum stay, you will be asked for, okay, what's the default minimum stay you want? And you can say, I want a 3-day minimum stay by default. You can also say, for last minute booking, within the last 7 days, I want a 2-day minimum stay. So in general, I want a 3-day minimum, but the last week, I want a 2-day minimum. And because we are updating prices every day, we'll always be setting it up so that in the next 7 days from any given day, your minimum stay is 2 days, so that people who are looking for short stays last minute, they can come and book. If your costs are low and you want to be more aggressive, you can also go 1-day minimum stay. For far out bookings, and this is what I was saying earlier, if it's more than 4 months out, you might not want to fill up your calendar with short bookings that clutter your calendar in some ways. You might want to say, I only want to take long bookings far out because they are cost efficient. And then as it comes within the last 120 days, I'm very sure, depending on location again, so you don't have to say 4 months. You can, if your location is something that books much farther out, you can say, you can give a different number. And you can say, okay, outside of this window, I only want 7-day long bookings because I'm sure I'll fill up the calendar with shorter bookings within the last 4 months. And lastly, you can also say, and this is our most loved features, often gap between 2 to 3 days, or you can set it up to 1 to 3 days. You can say, I want a 2-day minimum stay for any gaps that are between 2 to 3 days. You can also say, I want, instead of a 2-day minimum, you can say, I want the minimum stay to be set up of the gap is. So if it's a 1-day gap, want a 1 day minimum. If it's a 3-day gap, I want a 3-day minimum. So you have all these options, how you want to fill up your orphan days so that they being booked. So once you save those, the current settings that we have is default 3 days, and then we are saying 2-day minimum within the last 7 days, 7-day minimum within outside of 120 days, and a 2-day minimum orphan gaps between 2 to 3 days. So let's see if that goes up somewhere. You'll see on the pop-up that it says minimum stay is 7 because of the far out rule. Now when you come to July, it says minimum stay is 3 because that's the default setup and it's not beyond 120 days. And then if I come and look at these two dates, which are on either side of these two dates, you have unavailable listings. So if you had a default of 3 days, these listings will never get booked. But if I hover over it, you'll see that the minimum stay here is set up to be, because you set up an orphan day rule to say if there's a gap of 2 to 3 days, I want a 2-day minimum. You'll also see that across these 4 dates, I have set up a rule to say between March 31st and June 3rd, I want a 4-day minimum. And because of that, I think I need to save this. So every time you set up a new rule, you might push for the new rule to be active. So if I come here, you'll see that for May 31st, the minimum stay is 4, because although your default is set up to be 3, you have set up a custom override for these dates to say, no, for these 4 dates, don't apply my rule. I know something is coming up and I want it this way. You can also say, if there is an event coming up here and our market data doesn't show it, but you know that you should be increasing your prices, you can say that increase my prices by 50% and update it. So now the rule says 50% increase and minimum stay of 4. And if I save and refresh again, let's show up quickly. If I go to those listings, now you'll see the prices have increased. And if you see the pop-up again, it says custom factor of 50% right over the minimum stay rule of 4 days. So this gives you some more options to sort of override our price recommendations. And as always, you can always change the base price if you think the listing is priced too high or too low. You can change the base prices and do those things. Once you're satisfied with all these prices and you have set up all your rules to say what day should behave like what, far out, what the minimum stay should be, what discounting you need to do, you can then turn on the switch. So if you turn off the switch, we will never update prices to your listing. But if you're satisfied with what you see, you can say, I want to turn on this listing, and it says your prices will be updated overnight. If you don't want to wait overnight, but you want to say, hey, I want the prices to be updated right away, you can click on this sync now. And what it does is within 5 to 10 minutes, the prices will be updated on your listing. So let me show you on BookingSync how this will show up once you have done sync now. And a quick way to access the listing is by, on your dashboard, we have the listing ID. You can click on it and it will open up the listing for you. And if I, on BookingSync, if I go to rates, I see the calendar, and you can see the rates. It's a little small, but right. So the rates here are 108, 104, 118, and the minimum nights are also here. So for these 2 dates, which are orphan dates, you have a minimum nights of 2 nights. For these 2 dates, which are last minute, you have an orphan. You have a minimum stay of 2 nights because we set up last 7 days to have 2-night minimum. Now beyond May, you have a 3-night minimum in general. And in September and in late August, in September, you have a 7-night minimum stay. So this is the kind of once this is here, these prices will get pushed by BookingSync's channel manager to all the different channels along with the minimum stay rules. Now, some other features that I wanted to show are on the dashboard itself. So our dashboard can handle a lot of listings. We have people with 1,000 listings in their accounts, and sometimes it can get a little cumbersome to go through all of these. So it has, we have a search here where you can say, you can search by listing name. You can also search by the group name. You can search by the listing ID, and that lets you quickly get to the listings that you want to look at right now. Beyond that, if you look at the dynamic pricing tab, you'll see review prices is the main dashboard that we have been looking at all this while. You can also see the manage listings tab and the customizations tab. I'm going to go to the customizations tab first. So when I go to the customizations tab, and let me pick on BookingSync again, I can edit customizations for all my BookingSync properties together. So if I have 100 listings, I don't have to go through each one of them and set up rules for every single one of them. So what I've done here is I've said the minimum stay should be fixed at 2 days for all my BookingSync properties. And I don't have any rules about last minute or far out, but I have a rule saying if there is a 1-day gap between 2 bookings, I want those dates to get a 1-day minimum. Now, the listing that we have been seeing till now had its own rule. So an account level rule is not used if a listing has its own special rule. So if you have 100 listings, you can set up a rule for everyone, but you have some exceptional listings where the regular rules don't apply, then you can set those up separately. That helps a lot with improving your efficiency, how quickly you can get everything set up and running. You can also go to, so these customizations were on a rolling basis for the entire calendar. You can also set up date-specific rules. So you can say, for all my BookingSync listings, for these 3 dates, I want the prices to be decreased by 20%, and I want the minimum stay to be 1 day. And this rule then applies to all your listings that don't have their own rule in place. And this is, again, for New Year's Eve, for example, if you know that, hey, for all my properties, I want a 3-day minimum, you can go ahead and set it up from here. You don't have to go on each calendar and do it. The next thing I want to show is the Manage Listings page. So if you go on the Manage Listings page, it's again here to help people who have a lot of listings. So if you have a lot of inactive listings on your dashboard in your account, you can turn them off. So I can turn a listing from showing or not showing. I can assign a group name. Easy way to quickly edit all the base prices and the minimum and maximum. So instead of going listing from the main dashboard, I can make quick edits here. I can say, okay, this listing should never go below $100, for example. Now, I know this is a lot to take in, probably, account. And if you go to our blog has a lot of resources that describe most of these things. We are always happy to answer things over email or a call over Skype. But our blog has a lot of resources on how to get started when you're just starting with Pricelabs. PMS integrations have directions on how to integrate with BookingSync, for example. Customization features, everything that I just showed. How do you set minimum night controls? How do you set date-specific custom pricing for events and seasons? We have a feature called Base Price Help, where for every listing you can click on it and it will show you what kind of competition is there in the area surrounding you. And lastly, workflow tips. This is helpful if you have a lot of listings. So you have tips on if you have a large portfolio, how can you manage it easily from Pricelabs? sync now feature. If you make a change and you want those changes to reflect on BookingSync or Airbnb right away, how can you do that? And a checklist of all the advanced features so that you know you're not missing out on something that you could find useful. That more or less finishes the demo I wanted to give. Let me unmute everyone to see. Good point, Flo. So you can always go to the pricing section to look at our plans. Our plans are, we have absolutely no commissions. We don't believe in that at all. If you're in US, Canada, or Europe, you fall under one pricing plan. And if you're in any other country, then it's a separate plan. I'm going to look at the US plan. So it depends on how many properties you have, and the rate keep going down as the number of properties increases. So if you have 100 plus properties, it comes to around each property after the 100th will be $449. If you have, say, 30 properties, you can use our calculator to understand how much it will cost you per month to maintain 30 properties. Now, we only charge you for listings that are being actively priced with us during the month. So if you have 100 listings in your portfolio, but you use Pricelabs only for 30 of them, we only charge you $294. And this is a flat fee, absolutely no commissions. Any questions? Oh, sorry, we'll come up with questions around that. But you can access this page from our home itself. Let me go to our web page. I'll also give you a brief tour of what our web page looks like without logging in, so that you can see where the resources exist. The pricing page that I was just showing is listed up here. The blog with all the resources and tutorials is up here. The contact us page, sign-in page is where you click, and if you don't have an account, you sign up here. And our getting started page has all the instructions on everything, starting from how do you create an account with Pricelabs, how do you import properties, what does the dashboard look like, how do you review prices, how can you set up, what are these lowest, base, and highest prices, set them up, the base price help features, and everything else that there's to know about Pricelabs is right here. Of course, everyone who starts with Pricelabs gets a 1-month free trial. You do not need to provide a payment or credit card. There's absolutely, you can start with Pricelabs free trial, and 2 weeks later, if you decide I don't want automated pricing, you can just turn your listings off, and from that point on, we'll not touch your account. Even if you start with a subscription, you can always stop using Pricelabs. There's absolutely no contract. Anything else that I missed? I'm going to unmute everyone else to see if there are questions hello? Any questions? Does anyone have any questions, or should we go into more detail? Let me log back in just to show you the screen to see if something needs more description. You feel free to also type in any questions that you have. If you don't want to speak, I can answer questions over. I can speak and read your answer out to everyone. So while you think of questions, let me also show the market intelligence report. And if you have any questions, interrupt midway. That's perfectly fine. So
yeah, maybe we can share the link to your blog post.
Okay.
Yeah, for the integration.
And
yes, maybe if someone has some question, you can write to Pricelab or contact us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm pasting the link to the BookingSync integration instructions on our on the blog post. It also contains our contact information, but feel free to always email support@pricelabs.co. We are fairly responsive. I think within 2 to 3 hours, most days, we get back to you with an answer.
Terribile questo esame.
And again, all the resources are listed on our blog page on the top. So how to get started, what kind of features are there, to use them, everything is up there. And I would be very happy to share this presentation as well. Is there any interest in getting this email to all the attendees?
Yeah, we'll send an email to all the attendees with the materials of this webinar. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that works.
Okay, so I think if we don't have any question, it's finished. So thank you everyone for coming to this webinar, and we'll send you an email. And if you have any question, don't hesitate. And most of all, have a great weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye bye.